If you love talking about cats, but your friends and family are kind of over it, this is the podcast for you. Join your hosts, Danielle Stray Woolley and Elizabeth Calico Gearhart, on the Jersey Podcats, where everyday cat lovers share funny stories, challenging situations, and ask their questions about cats. All right, let's get right into this episode.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Woolley.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, and we're the Jersey Podcats.
So we have a guest today, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to catch up first before we introduce him. Elizabeth, we usually ask for any kind of Max update if it's relevant for today. And also, I know you just got back from a really nice trip. So how are you?
I am good. So yes, I went to Hawaii with my husband, Richard, to see our daughter, Lindsay, who's 27 years old. And she took us all around. We went to the Big Island. She's on Oahu. She's in Honolulu working, and she's there for a year. So we wanted to visit her before she left. And the Big Island, if you go to Hawaii, it was amazing. We just drove around it and looked at stuff. And we did end up going to the seahorse farm. I guess it's one of the few seahorse farms. I think it said it was the only one where you could actually touch a seahorse, a live seahorse. And it was really cool. They wrapped their tails around everything. I've always loved seahorses. So that was really fun. So, and we did a lot of beach time. We actually did an escape room because it was raining one day. That was really fun. So we just had a blast for a week. But I had my cleaning lady, who is wonderful and loves the cats. She stayed at our house. She house sits every time we leave, and took care of the cats and took care of Max. And of course, I'm so, what is the term for that? Where you like just have to check and double check and double check. So I had to call her a couple times.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And
did she block you at any point and say, I know what I'm doing?
No,
Go enjoy.
She's really sweet. But Max was scratching when we're gone, and we had lowered his Zyrtec dosage. So I had said before, I'd taken him to 4 different vets. He'd been on all sorts of steroids, everything. And then I said to the vet, well, where his rash on his face is, because he keeps scratching his face, where he touches my arm, it feels like I kind of get a rash, and I would take an antihistamine for that. What can I give him? And they said there really isn't one for cats, but you could give him Zyrtec. So that seemed to help a lot. So we had cut the Zyrtec back. And so I told her to up the Zyrtec again. And by the time we got back, he's not scratching much now.
Good.
Yeah, he'd scratched all his fur off. It's grown back. So Danielle and I were talking about being your own best advocate for health issues. And really, none of the vets, I had to ask the vet 3 or 4 times to give me an antihistamine for this cat. And I wouldn't leave the vet's office till they told me what I could use for him. But it seems to be helping more than anything else. And so I think he was happy to see us. I don't know. The cats were kind of mad at us for being gone. That's what they always do. Like when we're gone, the first day we get back, they're mad at us because we were gone. And then they slowly warm up and they're like, okay, well.
Yeah. Well, I think I shared on a recent episode too about how I always get worried about going away and how I say I can't because who's going to take care of the cats? And, so-and-so needs their special medicine. They don't care. They really don't. I mean, they miss us, I'm sure. But then when we get back, it's like nothing happened.
I know, right? And I wonder if they think of time the same way that we do. I don't know.
I mean, they're sleeping most of it. So
I know.
they're sleeping or eating or playing pretty much.
I know. Yeah. So no, we just had the most wonderful time in Hawaii, and the flights weren't as bad as I thought. We got direct flights, and we slept. The way back was tougher than the way there. I'm not sure why, but the flights weren't as long as they were supposed to be. We got there early both times, and we didn't get first class, but we got the next class down, so we had more legroom and stuff. So yeah, it was
I'm a little disappointed right now because I used to travel a ton, so I'm used to having like the higher rankings and just getting whatever seats I want and all the perks. And I just booked my first flight in a long time, and I lost all of my rankings because I haven't gone anywhere. And I'm like, what do you? I can't pick my own seat, and that costs extra. Like, what? I don't get early check-in. Like, I feel so bougie. Like, this is unacceptable.
Can I just say you are bougie?
Yeah.
That's a world traveler or a rich person's problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think this is a perfect time then to go ahead and introduce our guests today, especially because Elizabeth, you were just talking about, going away and having multiple cats. And then I know we've had several conversations and even had some of our listeners write in asking questions like, what is it like to have more than one cat? And so would you like to do the honors today, Elizabeth?
Sure. Let me make sure I get your last name right. So we have William Derella, and I actually met William through one of the Gearhart Law interns who knows him, and he is a producer for music. And he was on and really did just an excellent presentation talking about music and how musicians get paid, and just a wealth of information. It's called the Entrepreneurial Strategy Series if you want to see him on that. But before we started the meeting, he started talking about his cats. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to have William on this podcast. So welcome, William. We are so happy to have you here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's excited to speak to some, I think you guys are probably experts at cats. I'm really a novice at this point. Let me just point out one thing though. I have produced music, but my primary role in the industry had been as a manager for over 30 years. So
okay, great.
Just a slight difference, just for the listeners at home, the viewers, the followers, whatever we call podcast people.
Yeah,
what do you call podcast
I was
people
just
who watch
thinking
an
that
episode called Podcats?
Yeah, the Podcats, podcaster peeps. If
Very
not, we're
good.
gonna make
I
that
like
a
it.
thing. We're gonna make
That'll
it a
work.
thing.
Oh,
That'll work.
the podcaster peeps, the three Ps. Okay.
Well,
So
thanks for inviting me anyway, because I do love cats now that I have them, but I haven't always been a cat person.
So how did you get them? What made you get them?
Well, first, let me tell you the reason why I wasn't necessarily a cat person. Growing up, we had a cat when I was young, like elementary school, and it was an indoor-outdoor cat, and it was also it was one of these cats that you would sort of walk up to and would seem very, very calm and cool. And as soon as you got near it, it would scratch you.
Oh gosh!
And in fact, we named the cat Scratchy.
Like the Itchy and Scratchy show.
Yeah, and basically Scratchy was not cool, and I think I was slightly traumatized about Scratchy. One, for the scratching that used to occur, but also because I remember Scratchy must have either got hit by a car or got into a fight with another cat or animal and had to have some crazy surgery and had horrible stitches. And I was like, oh, I don't want pets. Moving forward as an adult, what I did do was have 4 children.
And they all asked for cats.
Well, they did. They asked for animals all throughout, I think, their adolescence. But I thought, I have 4 kids. Why do I need a cat? I got 4 human beings that I'm responsible for. The last thing I want to do is be responsible for a dog or a cat or some animal. Even a fish in the house was like a problem. Like, who's feeding the fish? Did anybody feed the fish? Right? It wasn't even my fish. But then COVID came around, and I only have 1 child at home now. The other 3 are out of the house, and he's in college. And when COVID came around, one of my daughters moved back home from Brooklyn, and she and my son got together and decided they needed a cat. They had to have a cat. They needed a service cat.
Up against you.
It was about a month where they kept coming at me, and I was like, come on guys, we don't need a cat in the house. Also, let me add that I had just kind of semi-retired, so I had all kinds of plans of things I was going to do. I was more shifting to doing different things in the entertainment industry other than managing, and I wanted to travel. Actually 2020 was my 32nd wedding. No, sorry, 2020 was my 30th wedding anniversary. So we were going to go to Tuscany and do lots of fun stuff. And anyway, after a few weeks, they were out with their friends, and they started texting me pictures of a litter. It must have been about 8 cats, and they were all amazing. And they're like, Dad, let us just have one, please. And I was still saying no, but of course I had this feeling they were just going to show up with a kitten, and then that was going to be that. And that's what they did. They showed up with this kitten, and his name, they had already named him. His name was Sookie. And Sookie was a polydactyl, a Hemingway cat.
That's what Max is. Max is a polydactyl.
I love polydactyls because that's the first cat that I was sort of, introduced to, as an adult. And I didn't realize how rare they were, and they're very special. I mean, they have an extra digit. So we had these little paws, kind of mittens as paws.
Murder mittens.
And so there were rules. So the first thing I said was, okay, you guys can keep the cat, but I'm not paying for anything. You're paying for food, you're paying for any medical issues, you take them for checkups. I don't want to smell litter. I don't want to smell anything in the litter, right? I want the litters to be clean. I don't, you guys feed them.
I can
That's
already
it.
predict where this is going.
Well, I'm sure you can imagine within 1 week, because also I'm home now 24/7, right? It's COVID. And I fall in love with Sookie. Me and so,
Aw.
even though I didn't want to help, I ended up helping and I ended up feeding. And Sookie just kept coming to me and sitting on my lap and crawling my chest. And then
Aw.
we'd watch soccer all day together on the weekends. And I just felt, and we'd fall asleep with each other. It was
Aw.
incredible. I so love my Sookie.
Now, did
Anyway,
you notice that Sookie, like, did Sookie help with like I don't want to say your feelings, but like
yes.
calm you down, make you feel more relaxed, balanced, like recharging? Because I
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
that with my cats.
Yeah.
no question. The answer to that is yes. I think my children wanted it as kind of a service animal to help them through this difficult time and having to move
Right.
home and whatever. And just, what was going on with COVID in the world was frightening for a lot of people. And the cat was definitely a calming factor. And it's great to snuggle and pet and play with and, feed and
Plus,
brush.
there's so
and
many
sort of do
cats
all
that need homes, so you're doing a good
Well,
thing too by
Right.
giving them a
no
home.
question,
Yeah.
And then he was a rescue. Here comes the bad news though. So 4 months later, I'm like beyond in love now. I'm like the cat expert. I've read everything about cats.
Yeah.
And I also started realizing, oh, I wish my cat had a buddy to play with. That was one thing I never knew about, and we could talk about that a
Right.
little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter says, "Hey, Dad, I'm moving back to Brooklyn." I'm like,
No.
"With Sookie?"
Oh no.
She's like, "Yeah, of course with Sookie." I'm like, "No."
You're like, I'll pay for everything.
You're like, this is my cat.
I wasn't going that far with the payment thing yet. I probably was ready to pull that out. She's like, "No, Dad, I got to move back home. I got to move back home. It's just I've been gone too long."
Mhm.
And so Sookie moves out with my daughter Sophie, and my son was bummed as well, and my wife was bummed. And in fact, for like a week or two, I think we would hear like those little footsteps,
Yeah.
and we don't,
Yeah.
always be like,
phantom
we're gonna walk around.
sightings.
Yeah, and also kind of
Yeah.
like we walk around the corner and expect to see the cat sitting there looking out the
Yeah.
window, but he was never there. And so I decided I got to have my own. So I went on the hunt for a polydactyl. It had to be a polydactyl. It had to look exactly like Sookie. It couldn't be anything
Yeah.
but a cat with white paws that had extra digits. And, so I looked for months. Very hard to find. You could find them if you wanted to buy one. Like there's plenty of polydactyls to buy, purebreds or whatever, Hemingway cats. But obviously I didn't want to do that. I knew there were so many cats that needed to be, sheltered, rescued from a shelter, whatever.
Mhm.
And I filled out all those forms. I went to, adoptapet.com, petfinder.com, whatever, youlovecats.com. There were so many of them. And I'd fill out the forms and then I'd say, oh, Genevieve, I love her. She's so cute. She looks just like Sookie. And no one would respond. A lot of the places,
they're
they don't
probably
respond.
overwhelmed.
I don't know, but they just, I really never got any responses. I didn't do it for that many, but the 3 or 4 that I was interested in, because they were really hard to find, never responded to me. And then one morning, this is after probably 3 months of looking, I got on another site and I started to get updates from them. So they'd say like, oh, here's some cats in your criteria. And the first ones I saw was a pair. It said it was 2 brothers. It was a jet black cat and a striped tabby. And they were so cute and they were tiny. And it was like, please adopt me. I don't know what it was about those 2, but they really struck me. Like, I just thought, I finally found them. Like, they're the ones that were
Aw.
meant for me. And I'm telling you, it was like 5 minutes. I'm like, honey, look at this picture, right? And I show her the picture of the cats. And she goes, oh my God, text them right now. Email. So I started texting, I started emailing. Next thing you know, I got approved in 24 hours or whatever. And 3 days later, I was driving out to Brooklyn to pick up my 2 cats from a foster home. So interesting story about my cats.
Wait, are
First
they
of all-
polydactyl, William?
No. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So I gave up on the polydactyl, but I also ended up getting a pair because I started reading about how important it was for cats to already be socialized, about bonding. And by the way, it turned out that they weren't brothers, but they were brother and sister. The black one was a
Oh.
female and the striped one was a male. And what happened was the mother of the cats She lived with a woman for 6 or 7 years. She was a single woman, and the cat never went outside, and she never spayed the cat. And what happened was she started dating a gentleman. He had a cat. He ended up moving in. And then within weeks, the woman's cat is not.
And then
not
the
only that,
birds and the
but
bees.
She has a litter of 4 kittens.
Aw.
So she's like, "Who wants a cat?" On Facebook or wherever. And the shelter was like, "Look, we'll take your cats, but you need to hang on to them for 8 weeks so that they can feed from the mother during the 8 weeks and also bond, with their siblings and sort of learn about socialization." The lady's like, "No way." Okay, I already got 2 cats. I certainly don't want 6 cats. She's like, I can't wait. So they said, "Okay, look, we'll do you this. How about we take the mama cat, we take the litter of 4, and we put them in, one of our foster homes, and they will take care of them for the 8 weeks. And at the end, we'll give you the mom back, and we will get them adopted in pairs," is what they promised the woman. I'm not sure she cared, but anyway, that was the deal. And so here I come right when it went up. I just happened to be like the first person to say, "I want those cats." And I went out to this house in Brooklyn where the foster family was taking care of them. And they were a lovely couple. And they had some other cats, and they loved this litter. They were sad to lose the 2.
Oh, I know what
anyway,
that's like. I'm a proud mom of 2 foster fail kids, so I understand.
So we stayed in touch. Actually, we started a little Instagram pages for the cats. My numbers are way bigger than theirs. I don't know why, but somehow my cats got like 10,000 views on Reels. It's insane. It's kind of this crazy cat community out there, as you 2 know.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
part of it.
I think we know a little bit about
I'm happy
that.
to be one of the crazy cat people following.
Well, I have to tell you, William, Max was a rescue. And he was the whole reason this podcast started, because he was scratching his face. And I met Danielle at a conference. I'm like, I want to start a podcast and see if anybody can help. And I had to figure it out myself with the Surtec, and hopefully that'll stop it. But anyways, I thought I was getting him from close by me in New Jersey. It turns out I was on an ASPCA site, and it turns out he was actually in Kentucky. So I had to go all the way to, I didn't go, they brought him up, but I had to get a cat all the way from Kentucky in order to get a polydactyl.
Wild.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible. So when we first got the cats, we have a fairly large house. It's got 5 bedrooms, got a second floor, right? And they were tiny. They were like 3 weeks old. And so we put them in one room in the house where my 2 older daughters used to, that was their bedroom. And it became the cat room. And it was, we had everything. We bought the scratching ball, we bought the tiny thing, whatever it was. And we had a huge mat on the floor. But for a month, my wife and I, we treated them like newborns. Like, we would, one of us would stay in the
schedules?
Room. Oh yes, absolutely. 2-3 days, 2-3 days for me, 2-3 days for her, right? And we only kept him in that one room. Yeah. Then, a month later, we started to let him into other rooms slowly. First the hallway, then we'd bring him into one of the other bedrooms. And there was this staircase that was very, very frightening, we didn't want them to get anywhere near that. And one morning, we were playing with them in the hallway, and it's sort of a hallway like this, and it turns right towards the staircase. And one of them just ran to the end, turned, and then just kept going and ran straight to the staircase.
Oh my God!
No idea that there was a staircase there. And
no!
Landed about 8 feet down, and everything's fine. And I was like, "Oh my God, what are you thinking?"
Yeah, they're totally fine. They're like, what's the big deal?
No problem. So slowly we let them get to the rest of the house. Now, funny you bring up the ASPCA. I just want to tell you this one little story. So, with the adoption, we paid a fee for each of the cats, reasonable one. And the shelter included, spaying and neutering for them and their first shots and whatever. Well, great, terrific. Okay, well, first of all, it was like way out in the farthest part of Brooklyn, almost Staten Island, which, anybody who knows New York knows. It's really far. It was like, it's like 2 hours without traffic. And, I hadn't really traveled around with the cats. They've just been in the house. Right now, they're 4 months old, and they need to get their first, they need to get shots and also spayed neuter. I guess they did it all at one time, right?
Yeah.
And usually. I had them both done. In the morning, we went out. We had to be there at 7 a.m. and we ended up in, total rush hour. My wife came with me. We had them. They cried all the way there, but not such a big deal. And then we dropped them off. They said, come back at whatever, 3 or 4 o'clock. So, in the afternoon, I told my wife, you don't need to come. It wasn't that big of a deal. I'll pick them up. And at that time, we had just one carrier, right? Because they were tiny, so we put 2 of them in the same carrier. And when I went to pick them up, they said, oh, you can't put them both in the same carrier because, one has stitches and they could, scratch it or whatever. So they gave me a box, like a ASPCA box, and it's got holes in the sides, little tiny holes, right, for them to breathe or whatever. I said, okay. So I kind of quickly did it, got him in the car, and all I could, think about is like, I got to get him back home. And so I start driving, and I hit the most horrible traffic. I'm stuck on the Whitestone Bridge, very long bridge. And one of the cats is sleeping. Bear is my black cat. Messy is my striped tabby.
Aw.
And Messy is in the box, and he is just, he's moaning, he's making those sounds that just,
And you're like, I'll give you 100 treats
like,
when we get home. I'm so sorry.
Exactly, honey, it's fine. And at one point he was crying so loud. I have a Tesla, and I had it in auto drive, and and I started to like go back and reach for him, and I realized, wow, his like paw was like sticking out of the hole.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, sweetheart, and I pushed his thing back, into the thing. And he kind of quieted down for a little bit, and I'm slowly creeping here on the Whitestone Bridge, right? And all of a sudden, this is maybe about 10 minutes later, boom, on my shoulder is a cat. And I freaked out, right? I'm like, oh my God. And then he's on the window, right? And then he's on the dashboard. And he's going, holy crap, what is going on here, right? He literally, he thought he opened the hole and squeezed through the hole in the side of the box. The box didn't open.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how he ever got out of it. And so, so I had to keep him. I mean, I basically like tried to corral him to my lap. At first, he's under my legs. I'm thinking, I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to get pulled over. Someone's going to, be calling the police because they see this cat on my windshield.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, I ended up getting him to sit in my lap and for an hour, pretty much, and made it home safely. And that was that.
So is that all he wanted? He just wanted to be in your lap?
He just needed to get out of that box. Neither of them are good travelers, though. We try to take them to Pennsylvania, to a place we have, and we've taken them a few times, but they have really bad motion sickness. It's in the mountains, so it's up and down hills. Haven't been able, tried CBD, tried a lot of different things. The last time we took it for a checkup, the doctor gave me this thing called gabapentin.
Yeah, Max is on that, so he won't.
I've never given it to them yet, even to like cut their nails. Sometimes they go nuts. So it was like, cut their nails and then take them to your house in Pennsylvania, is what the doctor says. We haven't tried it yet because one of my kids was like, gabapentin? Like, if you're bipolar, you take that. Or they said, check out this video, and there was a cat on gabapentin, and I looked at the video, and the cat is like this.
Oh gosh.
Aww.
Well, it's
I'm like,
interesting
wait, is that really what the cat's gonna be like?
No,
Could you guys tell me? Help me out.
Yeah,
it
calms him
depends.
down. Yeah, like it calms him down, but it doesn't make him comatose. So Max is still running around, even with the gabapentin, but it calms their nerves. It's like us taking a Valium, I think. I've never had a Valium, but I know lots of people that have. I'm afraid to try a Valium because I might like it too much.
Ooh, all right.
We are learning another side of Elizabeth today.
That's either very interesting or too much information. One of those two things. I'm not really sure.
But it's just like that.
Oh, sorry.
So. No, it's like that.
Anyway, I'm in love. My cats I've had them for over 2 years. They're 2 years old in a few months, born January 20th. The boy, he's just like my number one pal. He's sort of like the replacement for Sookie in that he sits on my lap all the time. Weekends we watch soccer all day. We have little tiny soccer balls that they play with, a whole bunch of them. My wife keeps buying more. I'm like, why? There's already 37 underneath the stove, honey.
Oh gosh.
What are you getting more for? Because they get lost so easily, right? These little tiny things. They're so incredible. I mean, I really do. And he will sometimes sleep with us. Not all the time. It's a special thing. Last night, he happened to sleep on the side of me for the whole night. You were talking about Zyrtec, by the way. That's because are you allergic to cats?
No, but
that's what they give your cat for allergies. Cat allergies.
Well, that's what you can give a cat if you think it has allergies. But no, I'm not allergic to the cats. But I was allergic to whatever condition was on his skin.
Okay. So it was about that.
Yeah, he was scratching himself. He was scratching himself and then putting his face on my arm, and my arm was getting this little rash from whatever was coming out of his skin. So I was like, I would take Zyrtec for that. So can the cat take something for it? And so
I got it. All right, that makes sense because I'd never thought I had any allergies. And I didn't really have allergies with Sookie, and I didn't have really allergies with the cats for a while. But I think about after a year, I realized like if I really put my face, if I'm like with them all the time and I'm just rubbing in, that I would get like a slight rash kind of, on my face.
Oh,
And I
I've
stopped
noticed.
I stopped like 2 weeks ago, and I realized, oh wow, my skin really cleared up. Now I know what it is.
Yeah, I've
It's some
noticed
kind of
that I
allergy.
have some cats I'm allergic to and some I'm not. So I
Yeah.
actually, even when I was doing fostering, I was miserable having to take like allergy medicine all the time. But I love cats, so it was a price to pay. And you had me laughing before because you were talking about how like when the cats were first introduced, or when Sookie was first introduced, you're like, you're not doing this, you're staying in this room. That was me when we got our first cat, Callie. She was a stray that came in, and at the time I was allergic to her because I can already tell from her kind of just rubbing up on me and trying to jump on my lap. But it started with, she has to stay downstairs, she has to stay off the couch, she's not
Oh,
allowed in our bedroom, and that lasted like a week, if that.
same thing with the table, with the counter, with the when we're
Oh
okay.
yeah.
They can be on when we're not eating or we're not cooking. Then it's like, well, it's okay if we're kind of cooking. Well, it's all right as long as they don't go near the food. There's
Yeah.
always another thing that you'll let them do. We have some beautiful bar stools that I probably bought about 10 or 11 years ago, leather. Two of them I'm like completely
The back
destroyed.
of this
And,
chair. Yeah.
the post, even though they have several things. We went away last summer, and I finally bought like cat tower. I was going to get one of those cat-tastic, bridges and the whole thing to put on the wall, but I was like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Let me just get this thing. And they totally love it. But I had to make like 12 pages of instructions for anyone who was going to take care of the cats.
Yep.
Like
Yes.
it's not just like rules, and it was really mostly just about feeding them. Okay, well, this is what you need to do this in the morning. You need to feed him 2/3 of the can. She'll only eat 1/4 of the can. You have to wait 15 minutes, in case they stop eating. Then you might have to put a treat on. Just
That's
one
so
treat though.
true.
Sprinkle that on. Oh, after that, the one who likes dry food, only one of them likes dry food, so the other one has to get fed, like watched. You could give her some dry food, but make sure she eats at least that 1/4 can of wet food in the morning, right? And then you need to spend at least a half hour playing with them, because after they eat, they're going to want to play in the morning, and then they'll probably go to sleep, which is totally fine. So like you got to spend an hour for the first. Then the second time you come, it's like, and my neighbor, I got one of their kids to do it for me the first time, right? We went away and we kept the cat for the weekend. So cute with the tail.
I was say I just see cattail.
The kid's like 12 years old,
Mhm.
and it's like I spend 2 hours with him going through all the pages of instructions and showing him where everything is. And by the way, you got to do the litters in the morning, got to do the litters at night, right? And showing him how to,
I
replace
feel
the
like
thing.
so many people are laughing right now relating to
Oh my
this.
God. Yeah, I'm sure. My wife thought I was crazy though. She's like, oh my God, just tell him, feed him in the morning, feed him in the afternoon, and feed him at night, whatever. Like,
I have it in my
just the
phone.
amounts. But I had more, because I don't think it's just about feeding them. And even, in the afternoon, right? It's like you also have to do things like play with them before eating. And then, when they do their hunt and they get to the spot where they've captured whatever it is they're chasing, that's your list.
Yeah.
And you got to give them a
That's
treat,
just
right,
the morning
after you play.
routine. That's just the morning routine.
I could also. Mine is also in notes, by the way. Yeah, I think it's approximately 12 pages, without question. I want to tell you things I don't like, though. So, okay, I hate litters. I mean, I don't know. I've looked at all the other kinds of litters there are available out there. The modern ones, the robotic ones. I don't know. I still probably the basic is still probably the easiest and the best. And currently, we use the clumping kind.
I use
we
the
get stuck.
unscented clumping because all the other ones kill my allergies.
Do you want to hear my cat litter story?
Sure.
Okay, so my husband, Richard, I don't think he was on that call we were on, William, but anyway, he's
But
always
his name's everywhere.
Yeah, right. He's always hated the cat litter, and he tolerated the cats, but now he loves the cats actually. But he was kind of like you. He's like, yeah, I'll let you have a cat. Well, when we met, I had cats, but anyway, his dream was always to have a closet that had a fan in it that had the cat litter boxes in it. So we have that in the basement now. We have a special closet in the basement with a cat door cut in the bottom that we leave open all the time because they don't like going through the cat door. That it has a self-cleaning litter box. It has the crystals. It does a self-cleaning litter box, and then it has a fan that you can turn on if it. And so anyway, It's an elaborate setup.
It's like the cat dad dream right there. It sounds
I
like.
think that's pretty. That sounds good. That sounds both responsible and covers off all the bases. I don't mean I hate litters because it smells my house. I'd never smell, cat poop.
Yeah.
I think we're just kind of on top of it, and that's just the way it is. We do it in the morning, we do it at night. It's pretty
We do
much,
too.
occasionally in the middle of the day. But if you do that, it's always fine. It's really it's not a problem.
For me, the issue is with the dust and the lugging and the
that's what
ordering and the restocking.
And my wife is more the vacuums cleaning up the thing, when it starts to get outside of the litter or whatever. But generally speaking, it's just more like bending over and having to do it. And if you haven't done it for like 6 hours and they peed say quite a bit, you're like, oh my God, trying to dig it out of the thing. It's such a pain in the ass.
So I think I'm weird because I actually find it like therapeutic. Like it's part of like my morning routine where I don't have to think. I'm just like scooping and sifting and feeding but you were saying about how like there's a certain order of the type of food you give. So I take care of stray cats too, because I do some rescue volunteering.
Sure.
And so but there's a certain order, because if I feed the one cat first, my other one goes around and just gets food envy and starts smacking everybody and like going up to the other cat's face and like trying to smell and see, did you get food yet? Because I want food. It's the funniest thing. So you have to do the one out front first that nobody can see. Then you have to feed all the inside ones, but you have to give the one cat his food first and then put everyone else's down. Then you could do the backyard cat. Like it's crazy.
Well, when you have that many, you have to have a routine. Even doing giving them a little bit of a treat. I have to like keep the bag in front of the thing so he doesn't start eating right away. And then I do my sprinkle and I like open the cake, and he kind of comes in. But Sookie, my daughter's cat, who lives in Brooklyn, now he's like, a super bougie, cool Brooklyn cat.
Yeah.
He's like a barista.
Does he get to book his own seats on the airline when he gets to book his seat?
No. He's like, the cat's like a mixologist and a barista. And it's just, this is a super cool, and of course he's huge now. So the first time he came back, he was about a year old and they were just like 4 months old. And he weighed literally 13 pounds. They weighed, I think, not quite 5 pounds yet.
Oh, wow.
And so when he first came in to the house, and I hadn't seen him, and it was like, first of all, he didn't know who I was anymore. I was so far.
It wasn't like
no. And I walked out, I was like, hi, honey. He was like, boom, just like smacks me. I'm like, what? I'm like, hi. He's like, cool. I'm like, Sophie, what did you do?
He's Brooklyn tough now.
Oh man, so tough. And then he's like, oh, cute little kittens, right? Sookie, right? He's walking over, he's looking at me, he's like, pew, hits the cat, goes flying across the room. Now I'm mad, right? Now I'm like, yo, Sookie, what are you doing? I'm like yelling at the cat, like as if he's getting that. Instead, he just is like, and so every time he would come, and so we have to like give him quiet time, like, Sophie, your cat needs to go upstairs. He's killing my kittens. Oh my! I thought, and he also would climb on top of the boy. The girl was kind of aloof, and she definitely was in fighting mode, but the boy would immediately be like, play dead, super submissive, and Sookie would just get on top of him and like pin him down, and then you'd hear the crying, and I'm like on a call or something. I'm like, can someone take care of the cat? He's killing him.
You know what?
And this went on for a year now. I mean, it's better now because my cats are bigger, right?
Yeah.
They're 2 years old. But he's still a little problematic.
But you're touching on something important though. So like, again, I didn't know any of this either when I first got cats. I was completely clueless, but my most troublesome cat is because we got him without a playmate. He didn't get socialized. I was traveling all the time.
Yep.
And he just run amok. And then now he's starting to learn. I think he's much better now that we have more cats, that they kind of beat on each other a little bit to realize like, oh, when someone does that to me, I don't like it. So then they kind of calm down and don't do it to the others. And then they play with each other. They keep each other busy.
Well, absolutely. I realized that about Sookie when, he came to the house, like, oh man, he's never really been socialized. He's never had any other cats around him. And my two are like, they're either making out, cleaning each other, laying, or they're fighting like crazy, this crazy fighting, but for fun.
Mm-hmm.
They don't bite each other to hurt each other. They don't scratch each other to inflict any kind of pain. Whereas Sookie gets in defensive mode, and he's literally like fighting with them. It is much better now. We hardly ever have to do quiet time for Sookie. Only maybe once or twice when they come and visit. And
no dunce caps anymore.
No, and you feel bad, I feel because then I hear him upstairs and he's crying. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Okay. So I go in the room with Sookie and kind of hang out with him while he's being, sort of punished, even though it's a fine room. He's got plenty to do. He lives in an apartment. They come to my house, it's like, oh my God, this is incredible.
So you just brought up another thing. So any cat that gets to live with one of us, and a lot of the people listening to the show has like hit the royalty jackpot, right? Like they're treated like the kings and queens.
His cats have 37 soccer balls. I mean,
absolutely. Oh my God, no, they had it's like cat paradise here.
Yeah,
I speak French to my cats.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. And people are like, well, why are you speaking French to that? I'm like, I don't know. I used to speak French to my kids when my wife is French. And so it just became a thing. Like they don't understand English too well. They're really very good at French though.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, they're a little bougie. I have to try the gabapentin thing because my house in Pennsylvania is really great for them. The only thing is like my daughter took her cat to Pennsylvania and she had a bunch of friends, staying over, and I got that call. I'm sure you guys have all had this happen. The cat's gone. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the cat's missing. The cat's missing. We've been looking for. You're like freaking out. I'm like, just look, it's probably nearby. They usually don't go far because, he's never been outside of a house. And anyway, we alert, the entire neighborhood. And it's like 2 hours. So, after 2 hours, you're like, oh man, maybe the cat is missing. Of course, in the end, the cat ended up being in a closet.
Oh my gosh.
Inside the house, right? So everything was fine. And I thought to myself,
and he was like, I'm sleeping. Why is everybody yelling? What's going on?
Well, we had to sign a contract with the shelter that we got the cats from, saying we wouldn't let them go outside.
Yes, we do that too. Yep.
And so we're always very careful with our cats, right? And this is post Sookie getting lost up in Pennsylvania. One day I've got these guys working on my house, they're painting, they're doing whatever, right? And I realized the door is wide open. They went outside, the door blew open, they didn't close it all the way. And then I'm looking for one of my cats and I can't find them. And I'm like, okay, calm down. I'm telling myself, your daughter went through this. You kept her, tried to keep her calm, even though she was hysterical, complete wreck, still traumatized by it, even though the cat wasn't even lost, right?
Right.
And so I'm looking everywhere in the house. I can't find the cat. There's no cat to be found. So now, boom, now we put out the red alert. Now I'm outside and I'm also angry. I'm so pissed at the construction guys, right? I'm like, this guy's freaking let my cat. I told him not to let that door open. Anyway, 2 hours of looking. I finally do break down. Like someone's like, what are you looking at? Like, cat. And I'm thinking, after 2 hours, this cat got eaten by the fox next door, who's eaten like 6 chickens from my neighbor's coop. Or something like it's just, I don't know where.
Or someone said, oh, that's a cute cat, I'm going to keep it.
And then I kind of caught my breath and I thought, okay, your daughter found the cat inside. What are the chances the cat's inside? And so I do every single inch of the house. And I looked twice in my own closet. I have one of these closets where you see all the shirts and the suits, but there's like a secret corner. Yeah,
out?
There's like around though. There's like I reached in, but not all the way. And then I found him. And I mean, I was a wreck. I was a wreck for hours.
I believe you.
And I also felt stupid. Like you told everybody the cat's, anyway, now I don't even, ever since that happened, I'm much cooler. The cats don't even like attempt to go near the door or anything like that. I can't imagine them ever running out.
I had this story. Yeah, I had this story with Lily. So we got Lily.
Oh, that's my daughter's name.
Yeah, well, Lily was named Lily when we got her, and she's beautiful. She's cream and white, and it just fits. So we kept it, but we got her from a rescue. We went up to a pet store where a rescue group had the cats, and she had just been spayed. They said so we could take her. She'd already had a set of kittens. She was 6 months old. Well, we didn't realize, like, I think they had spayed her like 2 hours before they brought her to I don't know, because she was out of it. We bring her home. We kind of put her in a room, and then she kind of wants to come out. So we let her look around, and our other checkers who we had at the time hated all the other cats. We knew she wouldn't like her, but our other cat, Mercutio, who was in the video recently, just this video, liked her, but she disappeared. I looked all over our house. I'm freaking out because Richard had the garage door open. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope she didn't get out because we just got her. She doesn't know. She's waking up. She doesn't even know. Anyway, long story short, I looked for a couple days, and in the master bathroom, we have a big window above the jacuzzi tub, and there's curtains that are almost the color of Lily, a little darker than Lily. And there's a little crack between the two curtains where you draw them together. And I see this little part of a green eye through the
So she was hiding in plain sight, literally.
She just blended into the curtains.
That's typically what happens. Most people find them like, oh, they're under the deck, or there's something really, they don't usually stray too far from the house. So people watching at home that have a cat that gets lost, there might be nearby.
Down,
they
check
might be
inside
in a
first.
Place. Yeah, check everywhere beforehand, and even on like the sides of the house.
Yeah, we a couple episodes back, I talked about how my cat Thor had to get buzzed down because he's got long hair and he had like some knots, and I didn't realize how bad, like how different he looked. Like I knew because I can see, but didn't even think how that would affect the other cats. And one of my cats went missing, and same thing. Like we didn't even go outside, but my first thought was, oh my God, he got out. I'm yelling at my husband, like, you must have opened the door and let him out. He's like, I didn't do anything. Couldn't find him, went to bed. I figured, okay, he's just hiding somewhere sleeping. Still couldn't find him the next morning. He was hiding behind the TV. We were shaking treats, screaming his name, nothing, not a peep. We moved the TV. His tail is bushed out. He's terrified of Thor. He's like, who is this? Like, I've never seen this cat before in my life, because he was completely buzzed down and looked different. But yeah, I did the same thing. He was in the house the whole time and I freaked out.
You guys have great names for your cats. Our cats were named, the black one was named Bear because she has these kind of bear paws, right? Mm-hmm. And the other one was named Maisie when we got it, but I changed the name to Maisie, they called it, and Maisie, and I ended up calling him Messi because Lionel Messi is one of my favorite soccer players.
Oh, cool.
And of course, my cat Messi is like a soccer player. He plays soccer. He plays goalie a lot of times. He's great at defending when I shoot against him inside the house. And he loves watching soccer with me. He will watch soccer with me for hours, including watching Lionel Messi play. I wanted to tell you one other story. A little cat story that I have. I deliver Meals on Wheels. I'm a Meals on Wheels volunteer where I live here in New York, and I love it. I love having relationships with the seniors that I deliver meals to, and a lot of times I'm the only person they see like an entire day. Most of them live alone, and so the guy who comes with the meal is like puts a smile on their face, and I like to have fun with them. Anyway, there's this one woman that I was delivering to. It was like kind of it was a trailer park community. And she was the super cat lady. She had like 12 cats. I think 9 of them lived outside and 3 were inside. And anyway, I was delivering to her for about a year and a half. And a lot of times I would look in the food to be, like bugs crawling in it and kind of dirty outside, and the water looked kind of like not so good. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something nice for her. And so it was right before Christmas, and I bought a gift certificate to Petco, and I brought it to her, and I said, hey, you know what? It's not from Meals on Wheels. Just, you're so good with cats. And she was telling me all these stories about all these rescues. Some were horrible stories, really like horrible. And others were beautiful stories. And she was so grateful, and I gave her the thing, and that was that. Anyway, the next week I came back, and there was a guy who was living with her, and he came out, and I said, how's it going? What'd you guys get, from Petco? And, or have you had a chance to go to Petco? And he said, oh, no. He said, somebody stole Donna's card, the gift card. I was like, what? Oh, man, really? That sucks. I go, you sure? I said, I'll go to the store. I'll see if I can try to get it canceled, right? So that and maybe get a new one issued. So I go to Petco, and I go to the cashier, and I'm saying, hey, I lost it. I tell the story like, look, I bought this thing. I'm a volunteer, and it's family that kind of really could use it. And she said, well, I'm not sure. I got to call my manager. So the manager comes, and he looks at me and he goes, you lost the gift card? He goes, you ever drop $100 bill on the street? He's like, it's gone. He's like, no, you can't do anything about it. I'm like, really? I got the receipt right here. Usually if you have the receipt,
they can cancel it, I thought.
Right. Well, while I'm talking to this guy who's kind of being jerky, the cashier walks outside of her thing, goes to the other side of the counter, grabs a gift card. I see her grab a gift card. And she starts talking to the manager. She's whispering. I go, whoa, what are you doing? She goes, I'm just going to buy another gift card.
Nice.
I said, what? This is the cashier, right? And it was $100 gift card. I'm like, no, you can't. I said, if I have to buy another one, I'll buy another one, right?
Yeah.
And I said, but that is so generous of you. And I think her doing that made the manager change his tune a little bit. He's like, you know what? Let me talk to corporate. I'm going to see what I could do. But he goes, worst case, we'll get you, another one or something like that. I said, okay. We exchanged phone numbers, and he walked away. And then I said to that cashier, I said, COVID's infectious. She's like, yeah. I said, well, so is kindness. I
Aw.
I
said,
love
I
it.
told you my story of kindness that I did to these people that I didn't really know. And it infected you. And you were going to buy a gift card for them. I said, I just want you to know, like, you're an amazing young human being. Thank you, And, we almost both teared up a little bit, whatever. So I took off. And the guy tells me to call him in a couple of days. I call, I don't hear from him. A week goes by. He says, I still don't have an answer yet. Another week goes by. He's like, oh, my uncle died of COVID. I got to go to Florida for a funeral.
Oh.
All right. A month goes by. Well, during that time, I started emailing Petco myself because I'm like, I'm going to tell them what's going on and send them the thing and whatever. And so one day, the guy finally calls me back. It's a month later. He says, look, he goes, your card's been spent already. I'm like, damn. He goes, but come in. I have a lot of stuff, that like we're getting rid of that I can give you. So I was like, great. So I said, I'll be over in a couple hours. Well, in between that, I get an email from Petco. This is weird. That says, your card hasn't been spent. We're going to give you another gift card. I was like, that's weird. So I drive to the store. I meet the manager. I don't tell him anything about Petco except when to send me another card. I want to see what he's got going on. And he has a shopping cart and it's filled to the top of the most bougie cat food ever. I mean, I don't know.
The episode is bougie.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like real. I mean, all these toys and all kinds of snacks, and it was like cases and cases. It must have been like $400 or $500.
Wow.
He's like, we're just getting rid of this. He goes, you can just take it all. So I took it all. I filled my trunk of my car with all this stuff, like not even in bags. I just kept piling it all in, brought the cart back, and I thanked the guy. I didn't tell him anything about the Petco thing. And then I went to the lady's house and I brought this food, and it's like it filled up half their house. I mean, it wasn't a very big. And they were super, super grateful. And then I told her, and you know what? I'm getting another gift card. So I'm going to be able to get that to you as well. And I did. I got the gift card in the mail, like a week or two later. And I brought her the gift card. And I went to the house and it still seemed like there was a lot of food. I said, there were neighbors who have cats. I said, if you want to share some of this, whatever, do whatever makes you feel good. And she said, so I said, how's it going with the food? She's like, well, the cats don't like a lot of the food. Like, it's like, it's kind of like too good, she said. It's just like they don't like the expensive cat food. They like the cheap cat food. Basically, they all mostly ate dry food, these cats. But eventually, she got to it. Anyway, it was a kind of an interesting, heartwarming Christmas story that turned out really great,
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
people who do amazing things like that, you're right, it's infectious and they want to, spread love and help out. But it makes a big impact, especially in the rescue community. Or, you highlighted the fact that there's a lot of people out there who are even struggling to have food for themselves, but they're wanting to help out the animals.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm such a big supporter of TNR too, because then you can help get them fixed, make sure they're vaccinated. People are caring for them, which I think is a misconception. Some people think we're just letting them go loose again, but people are caring for them. But then there's less cats born outside and less mouths to feed.
Right. Yeah. So TNR is trap, neuter, release, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good that I knew what it was because my neighbor does that actually. She's constantly catching them and getting them spayed or neutered. But it's interesting because we do have a few feral cats in the neighborhood. I remember, I have a home office on the second floor and I have a little balcony outside. And one day I saw my two cats and they were like at the door and they were staring so intently. I thought, my God, was there a bird there or something? It turned out there was a cat who made it up 2 flights and across all of the gutters and was standing on the thing. And they're just staring at each other, It's a little sad when they come and it's winter though. And the ferals come by and they're crying, it's like 2 degrees. And we put a box outside and we do have a thing for ferals, too, during those times, but it's still, it's kind of, I'm getting very heartbroken. And the cats look too, and they just seem like they're like, hi, I'm sorry, like we can't bring you inside. You feel for them. I'm such a cat dad.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we could
I love it.
clearly talk to you for like an entire month straight, I think, with all the awesome stories that you have.
Well, thank you.
And I usually like to end up the episode asking about something awesome that you're doing in the world or that you're excited about. You shared that really awesome story and the work you're doing there. If there's anything else you want to share, you're more than welcome.
Right now at this phase of my life, look, I've been really fortunate. I've managed groups like the Black Eyed Peas, John Legend, Fergie. also from the Black Eyed Peas, and then solo, and so many others. Natasha Bedingfield. I could kind of go on and on. Embarrassing riches, as I say, what is it? An embarrassment of riches I've had throughout my career. So I do a lot of volunteer work. I do a lot of mentoring work. Someone calls me from a law firm and is like, "Hey, do you want to talk about copyright and royalties?" Sure. What does it pay? Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in. Put me in, coach. I'm always working for free. So I do. I mentor a lot of young executives, artists, creators. I also, do my Meals on Wheels, which has been incredible, and I always have so much fun doing it. I love building these relationships and learning, things. By the way, there's a couple of similarities in how I deal with the people I deliver meals for, these senior citizens, and the artists that I used to represent. And that is never ask them, "How are you doing?" Because
Why?
when you ask, well, if you ask an
I
artist,
was waiting
how
for
are they
Elizabeth to
doing?
say why.
Well, if you ask an artist, yeah, I was waiting for one of you. If you ask an artist, how are they doing? They're like, "How am I doing? My song's like number 73." Okay. And everybody else is in the top 20, right? And why haven't I gotten that tour yet? And I'm still waiting for the advance to come in. Why hasn't anybody, and with seniors, if you ask them how they're doing, it's like, "Well, my husband died during COVID. I was living alone all the time. My shoulder hurts. I've got arthritis. I just got over a cancer treatment." I mean, it's something terrible. So
Yeah.
typically we try to talk about other things, like what they did before they were retired, what their hobbies were, whether they like music or not. My cats like music, by the way. It took them a
Nice.
while. When I first started
Yeah.
playing music, they left the room immediately. The minute the song came out, they jet out. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is going to be
These
a
can't be
nightmare."
my kids.
It can't be my cats. We can't be meant to be. Now the music can be blasting and they don't even flinch. Like, they just love anything I play, and they'll fall asleep to it, they'll play to it, whatever. So anyway, I'm just excited to have the time and the opportunity to help others. I think I learned really late that the key to living is giving,
I love
and
that.
Yes.
I live by that. I really do. I had a partner for 20 years who I left a few years ago to pursue other avenues outside of management, and it was very amicable. But he was super ADD, and I always was like, I would spend 3 hours. Like, why are you spending 3 hours? I don't know, because I like to listen and I want to learn more about them. I don't want to just make a sort of snap judgment. He's just very, very different in that way. So I think that's benefited me, especially in my pro bono work, as the lawyers might say.
Wonderful.
Yes, that's awesome. I didn't know you did the Meals on Wheels, and that was really great how you helped us people. But I can understand now why you were such a good manager, because you don't give up, right? You keep going
Yes.
back. You got the gift card how many months later, and also you went above and
Perseverance.
yeah, you went above and beyond, right? You went and got,
Yeah.
I mean, actually went and got all that food and brought it to that woman. A lot of people would have said, "I'm not going to do that, that's too much work." But yeah, so
Yeah. Or
kudos to
somebody
you.
else might have just said, "This isn't worth my time," and just given them another gift card rather
Yeah.
than trying to see what else
Of
can be done and
Of
replace
course.
it.
And by the way, there are some, like, I could tell you, the story of how John Legend got his name and how I negotiated that, and it took it all the way to the point, like, you would have just, caved, several days before, but you went through it. I always thought, like, I didn't want to be known for, "Hey, he was the Black Eyed Peas manager and sold 100 million albums, or represented so and so." That's not like how I want to sort of be known when I'm done. What's my legacy? And number one, it's husband and father, that I was a good one, a decent one. I tried my best, I did my best. But the other is that I like to be known as someone who's reliable, someone that you can count on. Not a lot of people like that in this world. There's a lot of people that are very unreliable, they're untrustworthy, that you can't count on. And it's sort of like, I didn't have to be the quarterback always. I just want to be like, if there's 1 second left in the game and you fill in the ball, I'm going to catch it and I'm going to get it over that line. I'll be the one who will follow through. So to your point about, sort of the cat and Petco, exactly. Like, there was no way I was letting that go. I was going to corporate if that manager wasn't going to, handle it for me. But in the end, he did. And, I still love that cashier who was willing to spend her own money to buy $100 gift card for strangers. I just thought, that's awesome. Anyway, people like that inspire me. And I'm so glad you guys have this cat show. It's super fun. I'm happy to have been a part of it, and in some small way. And I hope your followers, listeners, viewers enjoy it as much as I did.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thanks everybody for listening. And we're going to go ahead and make sure to get that Instagram page too, because we want to see, you said your cats have their
Oh,
own page,
yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Lion L_Messy, but we can put it out there for you next for your podcast. I'll send it to you guys.
Sounds
Excellent.
great. Thanks everybody. Have a good one.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. Give this podcast a rating so other cat lovers can find it. Connect with the Jersey Podcats on social media or visit thejerseypodcats.com and leave a message sharing a story or question about cats. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode.